Have you ever noticed a sort of subtle shift at work lately? Maybe you feel like you're doing just enough, not slacking exactly, but definitely not, jumping to volunteer for that extra project.
Oh, yeah. Or seeing colleagues draw much clearer lines between their job and their personal life,
Yeah,
more than maybe they used to.
exactly. That's the feeling. It's this internal push and pull, isn't it, between wanting to contribute but also really wanting to kind of protect your own time.
It is, and it's a dynamic that's playing out everywhere, I think.
Mm,
Offices, remote teams, all over.
absolutely. And that dynamic, that growing trend is exactly what we're digging into today. It's this fascinating phenomenon people are calling quiet quitting.
Right.
It's a term that just, phew, exploded, didn't it?
And
Ignited conversations everywhere, social media, boardrooms. And apparently it all kicked off from just one, like, 17-second TikTok video.
incredible, isn't it, how fast that spread? And that's really our mission for this deep dive. We want to unpack what quiet quitting actually means, explore its maybe surprising origins and the real reasons it's become so widespread.
Yeah.
We'll look at the hidden costs, and they're significant, and crucially, how organizations can, try and address it proactively. We're drawing insights from some recent articles from the Forbes Human Resources Council and also Delta International.
Okay, great sources. So let's frame this up. When you first heard the term quiet quitting, what was your gut reaction? Did you think, oh, this is just, millennials being lazy, a new buzzword for something old? Or did it strike you as something maybe deeper, like the workforce is just tired, tired of going the extra mile, only to face layoffs or feel unappreciated? What's your initial take based on what we're seeing?
Well, the first thing that really jumps out from the sources is that the name itself, quiet quitting, is a bit misleading.
Okay, how so?
It doesn't actually mean people are packing their bags and leaving, not at all. It refers much more precisely to employees doing only what's in their job description, sticking to their defined work hours, and nothing more.
So fulfilling the contract, basically.
Exactly. Fulfilling the contract, but deliberately stepping back from those kind of unspoken expectations of always being on or doing extra unpaid work.
Okay,
Yeah.
so not defiance, but a deliberate boundary setting.
Mm-hmm.
What are the key signs then? What does this actually look like in practice, according to the sources?
Well, the articles point to a few key things. One is minimal engagement. So tasks get done, sure, but there's very little enthusiasm or, initiative beyond what's absolutely required.
So ticking the boxes.
Pretty much. Then there's reduced participation, people avoiding volunteering for extra tasks, maybe skipping optional team lunches or after work things.
Mm-hmm.
And a really big one, as you kind of hinted at, is that rigid boundary setting. Leaving work at work, specifically refusing to check emails or Teams messages after hours, shutting it down.
That definitely feels like a rejection of a certain work culture, doesn't it?
Mm,
The one that maybe many of us internalized growing up.
absolutely.
When you connect it to bigger cultural shifts, what do the sources say about why? Why is this bubbling up so strongly right now?
Yeah, that's the core of it. And largely it reflects a rebellion against what people call hustle culture.
Right, that pressure to always be grinding.
Exactly. Glorifying long hours, always going above and beyond, often without the pay or the recognition to match.
Mhm.
And it's a real contrast, the sources say, to maybe earlier generations, Gen X, baby boomers.
Mm.
They often had more of a work is life identity, didn't they?
Yeah, the career was everything.
Whereas millennials and Gen Z, they're influenced differently. They're seeing discussions on social media about burnout, about mental health, about well-being. There's not Gordon Gekko saying greed is good anymore.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
They're asking, what's actually good for me?
Precisely. They're reassessing that whole equation.
That really clicks. It feels less like an individual failing and more like a signal, maybe a symptom of something bigger going on within companies.
Uh-huh.
So what are the specific root causes the sources point to? Why are employees leaning into this?
The sources list several really critical factors. Often it boils down to feeling overworked, undervalued, or just plain burned out. That's a big one.
Around, yeah. We hear that a lot.
And the lines between work and life getting so blurry, especially with remote work.
Oh, definitely. Easier to hide disengagement too, maybe.
It can be, yeah. Then there's insufficient pay for what's expected. Feeling like there's no real opportunity to grow personally or professionally in the company.
Lack of development.
A
Yeah.
disconnect from the company's mission. Maybe not feeling like the work is meaningful, or simply not feeling cared about as a person.
That's huge.
It is. And of course, poor relationships with managers, that comes up again and again. So for many, it's a conscious choice. Prioritize balance, get those boundaries back.
It makes sense. And this isn't just a few people here and there, is it? Did the sources give us a sense of the scale? How widespread is this, really?
They did, and the numbers are frankly startling. A 2022 Gallup study found that these quiet quitters, they make up at least 50% of the U.S. workforce.
50%. Half.
Half. Just
Yep.
think about that. Meanwhile, actively engaged employees were only at 32%, and the actively disengaged, the ones who were really negative, that group actually grew to 18%.
Wow. So the majority are basically checking out to some degree.
That's what the data suggests. It's a major, major shift in how people are approaching work.
When you hear figures like that, 50%, it immediately makes you think about the ripple effects. It can't just be about individual performance, right? What are the wider costs, the hidden impacts that the sources talk about?
You're absolutely right. It's crucial to understand this isn't just about someone doing slightly less work day to day. The effects ripple outwards, impacting the whole organization and, honestly, even the global economy.
The global economy.
Yeah.
Really? Did that Gallup report, the State of the Global Workplace 2023, put a number on that?
It did, and it's staggering. The report estimates that disengaged and actively disengaged employees cost the global economy. Wait for it. $8.8 trillion in lost productivity.
8.8 trillion.
Trillion. With a T. To give that some context, that's about 9% of the entire global GDP.
9% of global GDP lost to disengagement. That's almost hard to comprehend.
It's a massive drain. Let that sink in. 9% of the world's economic output just eroded.
Incredible. Okay, so beyond the sheer financial cost, what about the day-to-day? The operational side, the culture. What happens inside a company when quiet quitting takes hold?
Well, think about it. If people are only doing the bare minimum, you lose out on innovation. Those little sparks, the extra ideas, they don't happen.
Right. Collaboration probably suffers too.
Big time. Effective collaboration breaks down. Essential projects might get delayed because no one's stepping up to push them forward. And then there's the impact on morale, which can be really insidious. If some people aren't pouring their weight, who picks up the slack?
The engaged ones.
Ah,
The ones still trying.
exactly. And that leads straight to frustration, resentment, and eventually burnout among your best people. It creates a vicious cycle.
Yeah, I can see that. And then trying to hire new people into that environment. That must be tough. How does this affect attracting and keeping good talent?
Oh, it creates huge challenges. Companies that get a reputation for, high dissatisfaction or where quiet quitting is just sort of accepted, they really struggle to attract top candidates.
Because people talk, right? Glassdoor, word of mouth.
Precisely. And today's candidates, they're looking for more than just a salary. They want a place that values well-being, offers growth, has a positive culture.
Yeah.
A culture where quiet quitting is widespread can, unfortunately, just breed mediocrity. It makes it really hard to attract and keep those high performers who drive the business forward.
So it's a serious issue on multiple fronts. Given all that, how can employers spot it before it becomes completely pervasive? Are there early warning signs mentioned in the sources?
Yes, definitely. The sources outline some clear signals to watch for. One is isolation. An employee starting to withdraw from team stuff, like social events or even just optional meetings.
Going back, okay.
Another is a noticeable drop in productivity, not just quantity, but maybe quality too. Things just aren't quite up to their usual standard.
Flipping standard.
And finally, an increase in absenteeism. More sick days than usual, perhaps, or being frequently late. Little signs that they're checking out.
Got it. So recognizing those patterns early is key.
Absolutely. Early intervention makes a huge difference.
Okay, so let's pivot then. Quiet quitting is clearly a big challenge, but as you said, the sources don't paint it as game over for companies. They frame it more like a silent call for better balance, recognition, meaningful work.
Exactly. That framing is important.
Which implies there are things organizations and especially HR leaders can do. So what are some of the key strategies the sources highlight for tackling this?
Right. It's an opportunity, really. First off, fostering a genuine culture of recognition. That's paramount.
Rather than just employee of the month?
Oh, much more. Regular, meaningful feedback. Programs that genuinely show appreciation for contributions, big and small. It directly counters that feeling of being undervalued. There was some work human research cited. It found recognized employees are more than twice as likely to be engaged.
Twice as likely. Wow. Okay, that's compelling. Recognition isn't just fluffy stuff then.
Not at all. It's fundamental. Second, offering clear opportunities for growth.
Addressing that lack of development point.
Precisely. Professional development, clear career paths, maybe mentorship programs, showing you're invested in their future, not just their current output, that can really re-energize people.
Makes sense. What else?
Third, taking a hard look at workloads and expectations. Are they realistic? Are people stretched too thin?
Always a tricky balance.
It is. But giving employees more autonomy, maybe letting them prioritize tasks, and actively promoting healthy work-life balance that can prevent the burnout that leads to checking out.
So workload management and balance. Got it.
And finally, just enhancing communication. Regular check-ins, open dialogues, not just top-down, but really listening. Using things like pulse surveys to get a real-time feel for how people are doing, rather than waiting for the annual review.
Catching issues before they fester.
Exactly.
What?
Proactive listening.
That's a solid set of strategies.
Yeah.
But looking at them, recognition, growth, workload, communication, it really strikes me how central the manager's role is in all of this.
Oh, absolutely pivotal.
It seems like poor management can just pour fuel on the fire of disengagement, right?
Managers are really on the front lines here.
They absolutely are. Which leads to the crucial question. How do we make sure managers are part of the solution, not the problem?
Yeah. What do the sources suggest for equipping managers? Well, investing in them, providing training programs focused on, core leadership skills, but also things like emotional intelligence, understanding team dynamics, how to give good feedback.
Building those soft skills that are actually hard skills.
Exactly. And creating robust feedback mechanisms for managers, too, encouraging them to ask for feedback from their teams and, crucially, act on it.
So it's a two-way street.
Definitely. And underpinning all that, you need a supportive organizational culture. Leadership has to genuinely prioritize employee well-being and actively encourage managers to support their teams, giving them the time and resources to do that properly. It can't just be another task piled on top.
Right. It has to be embedded in the company's values and practices from the top down.
Precisely.
Okay. So we've really journeyed through this whole quiet quitting phenomenon. We started with that viral TikTok, unpacked what it actually means doing the job, no more looked at the roots in burnout and feeling undervalued.
Yeah, and the rejection of that old hustle culture.
Right. And the staggering cost, that $8.8 trillion figure, is just mind-blowing. But also importantly, we explored actionable strategies, things companies can actually do.
Focusing on recognition, growth, balance, communication, and really empowering managers.
It seems really clear from our sources that understanding why people disengage and then taking genuine, empathetic steps isn't just like good HR practice anymore. It's essential for survival almost.
I think it is. Fostering that environment where people feel valued, appreciated, connected. That's how you turn potential quiet quitters into engaged, long-term contributors. It's key for navigating this shift in the workforce.
Definitely. And maybe one final thought to leave everyone with something to chew on. Given that quiet quitting often comes from this desire for better balance, for more meaning, what's the individual's role? How much responsibility does an employee have to actually speak up about their needs versus just silently disengaging?
That's a great question. The balance of responsibility.
Yeah. And flipping that, how can companies create a culture where people feel safe and encouraged to voice those needs before they reach the point of checking out? How do you make sure those voices are truly heard and acted upon?
That really is the ongoing challenge, isn't it? But also perhaps the biggest opportunity for organizations willing to truly listen and adapt.